Hello, this is Dustin back again with Dustin's Dollars, and today I'm going to be talking about whether or not Knightscope insiders are dumping the stock. Right, the stock is going down. Is it because insiders are dumping? Are they running with their money? I'm going to set the record straight on that. I'm also going to talk about what is the Knightscope's float. Right, how many shares are in Knightscope's float right now? So we'll get into that real quick before I actually get going. Let me remind you, I am not a financial advisor, not a financial professional. This video is for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed here are my own and don't represent those of anyone else. So basically, probably shouldn't take advice from me. I'm really just nobody, a guy with a YouTube channel. So, anyways, let me begin. Are Knightscope insiders dumping stock? No. And why do I even bring this up, right? Because the stock is dropping. You look at this from the last couple days. People who saw it come, you saw the first day. It's not even on here. Here we go. Max. So I can make that chart even a little bigger. There we go. Look at that. Thanks for the flowers ads. You see, that was our day one. We already covered this. Everybody knows, right? We dropped, and we're slightly above that now. But I mean, hey, we hit this high in the 20s. We went up from the bottom to the top like 5x, 4x, 5x, and now it's just been going down and down and down. Did the insiders pump it up and dump it now? Are they selling? No. First of all, the insiders are in a lockup period. Okay. So no matter what anybody on the internet says, the insiders are dumping their shares. They're making you into a sucker. No, the insiders have all their shares locked up. I'll be a little more clear, a little more nuanced in my answer. Maybe there are some employees at the company, rank and file folks, right? Maybe there are some early engineers. Those people, I actually don't know if they are under a lockup. I could take a look. I actually have this open here, and I think the lockup at least applies. I know that the lockup at least applies to officers and directors of the company. I don't see it here. Here we go. We and our officers, directors, and director nominees have agreed or will agree with the selling agent. We will not directly or indirectly during the period ending 180 days after the date of the closing of this offering. I don't know what just happened. That was my mouse. Sorry about that. They're not going to sell. They're not gonna sell any calls, basically. They're not going to hedge either, right? They're not doing any agreements, right? If the stock drops, they're going to share along in those losses with everybody else who bought the stock. Now, I mean, granted, they didn't pay for their shares, but I mean, and effectively, they've been working real hard for those shares. I'm sure that they have been. So insiders are not dumping the stock, and we even see this, right? They filed the Form 3s, right? We got to see what everybody owns in detail with all their options and strike prices and which classes of shares they own. Which, by the way, I don't think any of the insiders even own the Class A shares as of right now, which is what's being traded. I think they all either own options or Class Bs. It's also interesting none of them own any of the preferreds, and I wasn't sure if that was because maybe they couldn't buy them. I don't know. Anyways, that's another topic for another day. But the point is, there haven't been any Form 4s, and they'd be required to file a Form 4 if they sold any shares. We've seen these Form 3s, which was just them doing their initial, here's what I own, that statement that was required because they listed. You can see the reporting date is the date that they listed on the NASDAQ. So no, insiders are not selling. Ignore anybody who says that online. You should be very, very suspect of that person because they probably have an agenda. So those are the facts as I understand them. Now, that actually gets me on to the next topic, which is what is the float, right? I talked about this in one of my earlier videos, my earlier streams, about Knightscope's market cap. And, Yahoo Finance gets it wrong, right? And I think the total outstanding shares, at least by my calculation, and again, I'm not a professional at this, I could be wrong. I'm just an individual investor doing my best here. If I recall, the calculation came out to somewhere around 54 million shares. That's a ballpark, right? And so 54 million shares right now at 888. We're at 479 million market cap, right? Half a billion. Let's round it off there, right? So Yahoo Finance is off by more than a factor of 10. And, if you actually divide this out, 35.52, and that's millions divided by 888, right? So they're doing this exactly as if there were 4 million outstanding shares. I have no idea how they got that number. That's wrong. That's really wrong, right? Their most recent offering was for 4 million shares, but they didn't even sell all of those. So there's only 2.236, I think, was the figure of those outstanding. So they got some. I'm sure some rank and file employee at Yahoo did their best, but I don't think that's right at all. I mean, for a $35 million company, this would be an absolute steal. I'd be buying hand over fist. That if we were that'd be a stock price of like, 50 cents or something like that right now with our outstanding shares. So, yeah, I'd be buying that dip. So what is the float, right? That's the I previously calculated the outstanding shares at about 54 million in order to calculate the market cap. But the float actually, it's an interesting figure as well, right? And it helps put the volume into context that we've been seeing. And we'll look at that in a minute after I do calculate the float. But I think, I'm not 100% sure. Again, individual investor. I'm not a professional at this, but I believe this is a credible way to calculate this. So they're saying after this offering, so this is from the offering that they did, right? This is filed January 21st, near the end of the offering. I actually don't quite get exactly why they filed this one, because they filed previous ones that look very much like it. But this is going down to the shares eligible for future sale, right? Page 51 on the offering here. And so they're saying after this offering, we'll have 19.2 million shares of our Class A common stock, assuming that 4 million shares are sold in this offering. And nobody exercises any more of their preferred stock after January 18th, right? So this is a snapshot as of January 18th. Because this is, full disclosure, this is what I hold, right? I hold the preferred stock, and many other people did. And so they can convert that, which would have resulted in yet more Class A's. But I mean, I think that conversion, I don't remember the exact time frame. I want to say it became available in December, maybe. So that, a lot of people who had bought in the previous rounds, bought the preferred stock, they bought it because they wanted to then have, Class A shares to sell. They weren't necessarily wanting to hold on to the preferred stock. They wanted something tradable. So I think a lot of those 19 million shares probably came from that preferred stock, because I don't know that they actually sold or granted or anything else any of the Class A commons before that point. So let's, get to it, right? I'm sure that's what you're saying. So if we have 19,256, you can see the calculator, 965, that is how many shares they would have if they had sold all 4 million, but they didn't. So let's subtract off 4 million. So that's 15, and they actually sold they said 2.236 million, I think, 2.236 million. So that is how many Class A's they actually had. Now, that's not the full float, because they also had, that's not the potential full float. That is the full float under certain assumptions, right? And this is why I can't tell you exactly how many shares are in the float right now, but that is how big the float would be if everyone else who is holding these shares, these Series M preferred stock and the Series S preferred stock, and those I think were from the prior two rounds. That I think the Series S was the raise from 2018 and 2019, and then the Series M I think was from even before that, right? I'm actually not sure off the top of my head, but so any of those shares though could have been converted into Class A's, and then could have resulted in a higher float, right? So we can, I think, definitively say the float is at least 17.5 million shares. And it would have been I think that exactly if not a single one of these holders would have converted their stock. And now I'm sure some of them did. So if they did, they conveniently put the figure right here as converted number. That would have converted into, about 7.5 million more shares. And so if we actually add that up, plus 7,590,356, that's not right. 7,590,356. There we go. So there we go, about 25 million shares. So we can say we're somewhere between 17 and a half and 25 million shares in the float right now. Um, so that is how big Knightscope's float is. And what will be interesting then is let's go over here and compare that to the daily volume. Can I do just do 3 months, so that should show me all the days that we've been trading. Um, but that's crazy, right? Because obviously the first day volume was tiny. I don't know why that was. The algorithms hadn't picked up that it was that is listed yet, I guess. Um, but look at this. We were seeing routinely almost every day. We're seeing basically the whole float, right? We're seeing more than what I think the float could be. 28 million share, 29 million, let's call it, on the second day, the first full day of trading, 42, 43 million the next day. And even yesterday, no, this was yesterday. These 2 days, right? We're talking 12 million, 18 million. If our float is somewhere between 17 and a half and 25, that's almost all the shares turning over. That's ridiculous. There's no way that's happening. So the shares have to be trading hands quite a lot. And I don't have it here. I think I didn't have it open, but we look at the short interest, and you see there's not a whole lot of shares available for shorting. But this data comes from one exchange. I don't know if there's other places where they can get it. And I mean, we know the short, as we looked at yesterday, the short borrow fee is astronomical. It's 180%. But I don't know if maybe some of these shares are available. Maybe they're being used for shorting. I have seen comments online, who knows if people are telling the truth or not, that they shorted the stock and they made 40% in a day or two or whatever. Again, people, it's the internet. You don't know what to actually believe, but maybe they're getting maybe a lot of these shares are actually being, some of that volume is short sales because, people are actually getting their shares from somewhere, and there's that's contributing to a lot of that volume, even though the float was only 17 to 25 million shares. But all that being said, that's about where we're at, if you cared about the float there. But it's crazy just to see the volume that we get. What was it today? So today was much lower, and maybe things are gonna die down. I don't know what the quote unquote normal volume will be. I'm sure that things were a little bit higher this first couple days after the listing. But even half the float in volume, if we're at about 17.5 million, that's half the float right there. That's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, a couple other things real quick to cover before I end today. We did see this tweet. They are have another robot they're about to deploy in Tennessee, and so I'm assuming this is them sort of burning through some of that backlog we talked about. And pretty soon I think this would be counted in their machines and network number, which I think from what we've seen, we could say that at one point Bill had said 90, and I think they said they definitely had deployed another one, so it would be 91, and if this one deploys, maybe that's at least 92. And I mean that it's kind of silly to track every individual robot but when they have like only 90 robots out there, that's material, right? That's like almost a 1% increase in their revenue every time they deploy one of these robots. So that's huge, right? If they're that's not huge, right? 1%, but you see it's nice to see it going up, I guess. They did have another tweet here, and they tweeted out this is the official Knightscope. They tweeted out to this Park Central, and who cares, what is this? But yes, so this is actually somebody who this is a client that has the robot deployed, and what's interesting is, or what I think is interesting, is just that this is notable for them, right? That they are using this as part of their company's narrative, that they have this, the security robot, the K5. Apparently they had an article about it all the way back in April when they initially deployed it, right? And this was what was tweeted out today. This was the year in review. They said, hey, if you visited in the last 8 months or so, you might have noticed our robot. They even named it Parker. I love it. But this is great, right? This is think about it from Knightscope's perspective. This is their client is advertising for them for free. And so the robots are actually providing, and they're not doing this to advertise. They're doing this because it increases their image. Which I think is great. It's part of my thesis for investing in Knightscope is just that there's sort of this virtuous cycle, right? That you know the more clients that are out there, they just by virtue of having the robot there and being in places where there are people, because that's generally the robots are going to be deployed in places where there's lots of people. Not always, right? I guess you could also deploy it just in places where you wanted, high, where you have something of high value, right, that you want to secure. But you know, th- just them being there and being seen by people raises awareness that the company exists and that these robots are work, that they do a job, that they're a product, they're a service that you can go get, and people will have this in mind. I think it's sort of it's word of mouth, like, is built into the product, which I think is fantastic. So again, I think as part of the long term thesis, that's really interesting to see what it will mean for Knightscope, right, and their future cost structure. Well, or the how much they have to invest in advertising to get sales, right? I did have to laugh a little. I was reading the comments, and there's somebody, this is a $1 trillion company. I mean, makes you laugh, maybe someday, that'd be fantastic, but you know, makes me chuckle a little bit. Yeah. I did want to cover just real quick. I did get a couple comments on on yesterday's video. This sorry, I am probably going to not pronounce your name correctly. Pong Tamrong Youth. He says, he or she says it's going to be 5 and below. It's going to be 5 and below. And maybe, right? Like, you look at the chart, it keeps going down. We already saw 591 on that first day of trading. It's possible, and I my reply there, I expect volatility from the stock. For real, right? Nobody knows what it's worth, right? And I talked about this before. You can make a case that it's worth $0. You can also make a case that in a couple of years this thing is going to be a monster, a huge company. And how you price that today is just how you want to discount those future cash flows back to today's dollars. How much risk you really think that is. But yeah, it certainly could go below 5. At some point I would probably be tempted into buying more shares, even though I already have a good position. And the other thing he said is, he likes AITX way better. And I've actually seen a couple of mentions of AITX in various places around the internet where we discuss Knightscope. And I think I'm going to take a look into that, and we'll see how it compares to Knightscope, because I'm interested. I've seen it mentioned enough, so maybe be looking for that in the future if you care. Anyways, all right, that is everything I wanted to cover today. I don't think I have anything in the chat. As always, I don't know if I mentioned it. Feel free to join. I generally stream at about the same time. I'm gonna try to do this most weekdays. Probably not Fridays, but yeah, and I guess subscribe if you want to see when I actually do go live. And I'd love to have some chats, answer questions if anybody hops on. That being said, I'm gonna hop off. Thanks for watching today. See ya.